We are live streaming already, so it's fine. I will try.
But don't worry, take your time. We're just gonna take a couple of minutes for the live streaming. And okay, so now we are on Facebook. Now we're out in YouTube. So for the Facebook, for the live streaming, I will close my camera for that. Use it for the live streaming. However, I will be here. So if you cannot see me, don't worry. I'm gonna be here connected. Okay. Perfect. Because I need to close my camera for the live streaming. And okay. Okay, now I'm gonna go to the Facebook. Here we go. Go live. Live.
I need to try my.
How's getting with the work? Like, do you have a lot of work these weeks?
Very, very. It's like non-stop, not even a day off.
Now spring holiday.
Not at all. I'm having some issues with my system to share my.
And you cannot share your slides or your screen?
No, I cannot. What I will do, can I send them to you?
Okay, the problem, you cannot share your slides, you cannot make share screen. They are like a button.
Actually, it's my computer. It's I cannot share on I'm trying to sort it out. Probably I will get out and log on from the other computer. Is that fine for you?
Yeah. Don't worry. I'll
do that. I will leave and get back from the other one.
Is it the issue with the Zoom or with the
actually, it's I need to enable.
If you see in the Zoom down, there are a green button right in share screen. Can you click on it?
Yeah, but it's like my system preference is I need to change my settings. I'm trying to see here. I'll try one more time. Do you see my screen?
No. I just the background is changed by the screen now.
Yeah.
You cannot see the button down, like near the reaction.
Yeah, this is what I'm doing. It's like I'm trying to share, but it's coming as.
There a window that pop up.
It's so weird. So you see how it is?
Yeah, I can see your background changing from white.
But actually, it's the PowerPoint. So you see?
Really? How it is the PowerPoint is in your back?
I don't know.
That's really weird.
Okay, then we can start anytime you want.
But this is your background. It's not the slides.
Actually, it's moving, yeah?
So you're gonna make the slides as your background?
I think I don't have another solution. I don't know why it's like this, and I can change it. Is it visible for you? Hello, Ryan. How are you? Am I online still?
Hey, Malak, I'm doing well.
Hi,
Thank
hi.
you.
You hear
How are
me?
you?
Yeah.
Yes, I can
I'm
hear you. I
fine,
can
thank
see you.
Yeah. Is it fine with the first time I see that I am in the slides?
Yeah, no, that's interesting. By your start video view, do you have the integrated web camera on? Is that maybe one of the options you selected there to have your background be the same?
Probably. But it's really interesting, no?
Yeah, I've never seen that before.
Me neither. Yeah. So Maisa, I'm ready whenever you're ready.
I think she left, unless she's in the same room as you.
I don't know if there's any, if she left.
Right now, it just says you and I are the only ones in the meeting.
Yeah. Hello, Maisa, are you back?
Hello.
Hello.
Patrick here. Patrick
Hi,
Rael.
Hi.
Hi.
Good to have you here. I don't know where is my host. Maisa, you
In
there?
fact, yeah, I'm here. I don't know what's happening to the Zoom. I just went out. I think connection issue. So are you ready for starting the conference?
I am.
Okay, so we are live streaming now in YouTube. I'm gonna send you the link in the chat. And so yeah, I think we're ready to start. So hi everyone, I'm so happy to welcome today Malak Trabelsi Loeb. She is Malak. She is in fact a founder and manager director of the Wernal Well Management Consultancies, Dubai based. And she is also international space and deep tech focused management, innovation and artificial intelligence research and consultancies. So Malak, she will give a talk today about a new space and the paradigm shift, why the law need to catch up. I'm so happy to welcome today my guest, in fact, my guest and also a friend of mine, Malak Trabelsi Loeb. I'm so happy to see you here, Malak, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Maisa, for the invitation, and thank you for everyone watching on YouTube and the ones on Zoom. Actually, somehow, I don't know, I shared my screen and I find myself, my PowerPoint presentation is in my, the background, and I can change it, so there's no problem. And also I am there within this video. So once more, thank you for having me. Today we will speak about the NewSpace legal issues. Okay, so legal issues. When we hear about NewSpace and legal issues. So first of all, what is a NewSpace? This is important to understand. We hear a lot about a NewSpace, and we ask the question: is it what is not old space. And actually in academia, they talk about new space and old space. And new space refers to the recent commercialization of the space sector with all aspects and implications and new trends and activities. And actually, when we say new trends and activities, we talk about the new space ecosystem also. Well, the new space ecosystem encouraged new trends, which we see flourishing, and we see flourishing the private actors and also private investors who are funding new space activities, aiming for the new gold rush. Actually, we have different activities that are related to or they are flourishing within the new space ecosystem. We can see firms that they are space access firms, for example, SpaceX, and we have who are specialized in payload launch and space cargo and human launch. We have also remote sensing firms. They are coming up with new trends and disruptive technologies. We have also satellite data and analytics firms, habitats and space stations, also low Earth orbit tourism, and beyond low Earth orbit firms and research and investment firms. So we have all these kind of activities that are being racing toward these new endeavors. So space exploration, what we see, it has entered into a new era due to unprecedented, let's say, investment trends, qualitative shifts induced by technological development. We have also political and economic new trends. Like, for example, when we say political trends, we see how countries they are kind of racing to reduce the barriers for the newcomers or commercial space activities. And that's why we say new space, because actually it's led most likely by the commercial space actors. And so yeah, we started recording right now, and I was speaking about the rise of the new space ecosystem. I presented a small introduction about the new space and what is new space and the difference between, well, we will see the difference between the new space and old space, and it can be highlighted through the new trends that we've been witnessing. So I've said that space exploration has entered into a new era, that it is let's say, driven by new unprecedented qualitative shift in different factors. We start by the way how states are encouraging private actors to be into the space ecosystem. And also we see the gold rush of the private investments injected into the space activities, and the out of the traditional way that we've seen before, because as we will see later, we have one main change. It is being witnessed, starting by the governments are not like before controlling the space ecosystem. Well, the space activities are not like before, depending on governmental contracts. So first, the reduction of economic barriers, we can see that. Also legal barriers, and now we can see that with the space laws or space national laws, they are driven by reduction of legal barriers. Before, it was difficult to have the authorization, for example, for what is fallen under the scope of space activities, like the space launch and other space activities, depending on each national jurisdiction, how they set the rules to govern their space activities or their national space activities. Also, we've seen other trends which are related to technological development. Now we can see that there are off-the-shelf technologies that can be implemented in different kind of space activities. We have also the race to commercialize space, which I talked about among nations, which is stimulated by competitive national laws and also policies which are creating unprecedented business-driven dynamics, which we did not see them before. And also, we have what the economists saying, what I mentioned before, we witnessed the new gold rush. And of course, there's always, when we have a paradigm shift, we could see a bubble, and actually the bubble, it's presented in a lot of startups. They are appearing and disappearing, and what economists are calling Darwinism in the space sector, which is as Darwin. So you see a lot of startups, and all in the sudden they are disappearing. So the other thing is, like, we hear about the space ecosystem and we speak about the space economy. So also it is important and interesting to understand what is the space economy exactly, because NewSpace, it's like I said, you have an ecosystem. So what is the space economy? So the space economy, as per the OECD Global Forum on Space Economies, define the space economy as all public and private actors involved in developing and providing space-enabled product and services, which compromises a long value-added chain, starting with research and development actors and manufacturers of space hardware, example, the launch vehicles and satellite ground station also, and ending with the providers of space-enabled product, example, navigation equipment and satellite and phones. And services, also we see witness services, satellite-based meteorological services, and direct-to-home video services to final users. Of course, this introduction, or I mean, this definition is not up to date, because we see so many other activities going on right now, like the rise of the cloud provider, for example. So space economy is larger than the traditional space sector, because we have the space sector, we have the space industry, and we have the space economy, and they are different. So for example, rockets and launchers involve more and more new services and products and product providers. For example, geographic information systems, developers, navigation equipment, sellers, and so on, who are using space systems capacity to create a new product. So this is very important, because also, like, when we say about governance and laws, it's important to understand the dynamics. It's important also to understand the way how the ecosystem, it is moving forward. So it's a very, very, let's say, out of the traditional ecosystems related to other activities like earthly activities. So now, after a quick introduction about what is the space ecosystem, space economy, and NewSpace, we may understand a little bit what is the space law. So we have two types of legal systems when we talk about space law. We have the international one and we have the national ones. So the space law consists of the body of law governing space activities or space-related activities. And space law, it's much like a general international laws, comprises of variety of international agreements, treaties, conventions, and United Nations General Assembly resolutions, as well as rules and regulation of international regulations. And also, it also include, when we say space law, it includes also the national regulations and laws that they are governing the activities fallen under specific jurisdiction. For example, spacefaring countries, they have different kind of laws, and those kind of national laws, they govern. For example, if I am a satellite, if I want to make I'm a private company and I want to make a CubeSat, actually I need to have authorization for the before the authorization. I need to have the license that allows me to make this activity, and also I need to have the authorization when I need to make the launch. So here depends of the place I want to make a launch for this satellite. So I need to what we call it forum shopping, and go from one jurisdiction to another and see where I'm going to launch the CubeSat. Because, for example, I am in a country, they don't provide, we don't have launch providers, so I need to go to another country. And here comes the private jurist or private law practitioners that they are specialized in these kind of activity or commercial space activities. What we are doing is all due diligence, the insurance requirement, the authorization requirement, fulfill all the obligation. For example, if one of my clients is involved into the CubeSat, well, there is a lot of or checklists we need to do, starting from the authorization, the regulation to be compliant to, the other laws that they fall and like my activities can be fallen under many other laws other than the space law. For example, environmental requirements that they are required by the country before the launch, or even during the early stages when there is a satellite manufacturer in the early stages. Even before starting the manufacturing process, they work on the insurance requirement, and they start approaching insurers or brokers, let's say, space insurance brokers, in order to make all the work related to that. So I think so. I spoke about the space treaties or international space law. So going to the space treaties, I think most of the people right now or by now know about the space treaties. We have 5 different space treaties, which we call them the lex specialis of international law. So we have the first one is the 1967 Outer Space Treaty. We call it the OST. We have the 1968 Rescue or Astronaut Agreement, which is the 1968 one. The third was the 1972, the Liability Convention. And the fourth is the 1971, the Registration Convention, and the Moon Agreement in 1979. And that was the last one. Of course, we have so many other guidelines and so many other treaties that they are applicable on space or space activities, but those are the main ones. When we speak about the national laws, actually the OST set the general guidelines of and set the main principles applicable on space activities, and all other treaties and the national laws need to be compliant to those ones. So I will go through that later on. So I start here the paradigm in the exploration and use of outer space, and we will speak about the old space and new space, the new dynamic in the law applicable to space activities. So when we speak about the paradigm into the exploration, we can speak what I mentioned earlier about the space activities, and this is what I do or specialize. It's commercial space activities most likely. So we see that there are new concepts that they are witnessed today. So we have new entrants, and when I say new entrants, they're not only the commercial space actors, we have the new entrants as nations. So we have new countries that they are entering into the space arena. For example, UAE is new entrant into the space arena and promising jurisdiction right now with very attractive incentives. The space law of the UAE is based on the sustainable, the long-term sustainability guidelines, or the guidelines of the long-term sustainability of outer space activities, which was adopted during the United Nations 62nd session, the Committee of Peaceful Use of Outer Space, or COPUS, on June 21 in 2019, and it's quite one of the few space national space laws that they are applying or anchoring the sustainability, space sustainability concept into its jurisdiction. So we have the new entrant, in particular in the US market, because we have now we have most of the entrants that they are shaping the new space race. They are in the US market, and then they spread or from there set the trend, and it goes to other markets, which is consistent of private actors, mainly from the digital industry, supported by rich and successful entrepreneur. We can say the rich and successful entrepreneurs, we know who they are. So the comparison here, which I mentioned before, the new space companies comparing to traditional space companies, and this is important because this is where it starts challenging of the new how the new space activities are challenging the space laws and the general, let's say, sets and rules governing the space law. So comparing to the traditional space companies, the new space companies are innovative, they are risk takers, and they are driven by disruptive technologies. And in contrast, the traditional space company, they are hierarchical and depended on governmental contracts. They are high value and sectoral driven, and they go for the low sales volume and low growth. That's how they are, and how they are trying to cope right now. So they make in restructuring, they go in and acquiring so many startups active into the disruptive technologies, and they are risk takers. And actually there is a cross-fertilization, let's say, between the previous trends and the new trends that we are witnessing. And here, so we see disruptors. The disruptors, as you see, we have the Boring company, we have SpaceX, and who was actually the PayPal guy. Of course, everyone knows Elon. Of course, we know that Amazon is also entering into the space ecosystem. Microsoft, Google, Virgin Galactic, and actually, if you go and well, I've done it before, and make a search to understand who are the stakeholders when Elon makes SpaceX makes a round of investments. Actually, it's not public, but you can search and find the root of the who are investors, and you see most of these guys. Or most of the main investors in the world that they invest in technology, they are investing in SpaceX also. So we have new programs, and so when we go to the new programs, we have satellite applications with the companies Google, Virgin Galactic, Qualcomm, SpaceX, OneWeb. So here, when we say SpaceX and OneWeb, we know very well Starlink, and this is very important that I mentioned during this webinar that I am here with the astronomers who are very, very concerned about two main problems. The first one is space debris, and the second one is the light pollution. And this, what I also raise awareness. And of course, now we see that space sustainability became one of the main subjects within the space arena. Before, when I started, of course, there are some pioneers. They were speaking for so long about the space sustainability issues and space debris problems, but now has become very well known by the public. So the first problem that we are seeing is the law or international law coping with the space sustainability concept or with the long-term sustainability. Right now, what I cited as space treaties, there are some gaps, there are issues, and the new guidelines are not, they cannot be reinforced unless the countries, like UAE done, they implemented within their laws in order to get all the elements of the space sustainability anchored within the space law. So when it's important to have the space sustainability concept in perspective, because it's important for astronomers to understand what is it exactly. So the space sustainability concept, as it was defined by the I mentioned in the long-term sustainability of outer space activities guidelines, it's the ability to maintain the conduct of space activities indefinitely into the future in a manner that realizes the objectives of equitable access to benefit of the exploration and use of outer space for peaceful purposes in order to meet the needs of the present generations while preserving the outer space environment for future generations. So it's very, very important to understand that space sustainability, when we talk about space sustainability, it answers this question: how to ensure, or how can we ensure the continuity of space, use for peaceful purposes, while ensuring a socio-economic development to meet the needs of the present generations without jeopardizing the future generation, or without jeopardizing the outer space environment for future generations to the space exploration. Very important when we speak about space debris is like, how can we protect the outer space environment into and we put it in the forefront. Like I said before, it is important to highlight and stress the current international laws gap in terms of the space sustainability. And why it is critical, because first of all, you are astronomers, of course, it's very important for your activities and important for exploration and for the aim of what you do. First, the other reasons why the world is witnessing a crucial legal challenges facing new space activities amid the conflicting geopolitical space race. So why the space sustainability is critical? Because actually we have a problem with the geopolitical issues that going on, and space sustainability is very important because we don't want to have the same problem happening into outer space, because if the geopolitical issues are moved into outer space, the problem of sustainability will increase. Can you imagine if they start hacking satellites and what they do if they want or these rogue actors, they hack satellites and they start making collision between satellites against each other and start having this issue of Kessler syndrome and so on. The second reason why it's very, very important or why it's critical to think about space space sustainability and fill the gaps that they are existing within the space laws is the entry of new space actors in the space race or the space arena, mainly private actors who were not addressed at the time of making the space treaties or when the space treaties were construed. At that time, it wasn't the case why that in the future space will be driven by commercial space actors or driven by private actors. At that time, it was the outcome of the Cold War, and actually the treaties were there in order to ease this tension that it was between the two space nations that they were competing within this space. So based on a doctrinal analysis of the space treaties, proves that the long-term sustainability is standing on weak grounds, and this one it's a part of my master thesis, which was looking at the space law challenges by the newcomer or new actors or private actors or space commercial activities, by which there is a problem of governance. And based on that doctrinal analysis and research that I've done, it was dedicated to space insurers and how the space insurer could set a certain governance and fill the gaps in terms of space sustainability because of so many different factors that the space actor can fill some gaps to reduce the issues and the risk of space sustainability. Then the third reason why the space sustainability is critical and to demonstrate that we have a problem in the existing space laws is the contribution of space activities to the international economy. So since the space space activities are critical for economies, and today we see with the COVID-19 how we couldn't even pursue a normal life without using satellite technologies, it's critical to see how space is crucial for us. So that's why space sustainability is important, and that's also to say that certain rules or certain laws governing space activities to fill the gap of what we have today, it's important. And the last, or no, it's not the last, but the main reason why space sustainability is important is because space technologies addressing the terrestrial issues to serve the SDG, Sustainable Development Goals, are very, very important, and how it contribute to social, how it contribute to fix social issues that we have. For example, the problem of health and education in certain remote places, especially in Africa or other developing countries, and access to education is very, very important. And that's why space activities and space sustainability is very, very important. Then we go to the also the efficiency gain in the operation side and employees know-how and skills improvement and management efficiency when it comes to space exploration. Economic benefits is very important. Actually, the benefits of space exploration in general and space technology particularly, it's huge. And even when we go to see the data proven what is the benefits or to make it into numbers, it's a little bit difficult because actually we have lots of social benefits that they cannot be accounted or they cannot be input into the yearly space economy data. So there are also benefits of so many other benefits of space exploration and how it is highlighted by the numbers. Actually, the global economy was reported by the Space Foundation in 2019. It held that the contribution of the global space activity was estimated to $414.8 billion, whereby the global revenues from the commercial space activities represent 79%. So it's very, very important to see the paradigm shift and to see how it contributes the space sector's contribution of private actors. It's huge how the space activities are contributing to the GDPs of the country. So this is a part of the paradigm shift in space exploration today. And if we want to continue about the space exploration benefits and why it's important to see the paradigm shift and what is the benefit of space activities and how it is important to fill the gaps that we have or challenges of the laws that we have today, which we will see in a little bit. We see that space exploration benefits security and defense. We see also it has critical return on humanity, specifically from the use of space technologies and application. We see that space technologies and satellite capabilities became indispensable to improve men's quality of life. So today, actually, we have an e-commerce in most of the countries, of course, and we've seen, as I said before, during COVID-19, how space technology is indispensable for us. So it has been used by states and non-state actors to address various global matters, and they are utilized to preserve the environment, protect biodiversity, manage the weather, provide telehealth services, and food and agriculture management, which I spoke about how it is helping to reduce the humanity's challenges that we are witnessing today. So new programs and exploration of space resources are new activities that they are challenging the space. It's among the paradigm shift that we are seeing in space exploration, and we will see later how it's challenging the laws. So here it's an example, because actually we have a lot of resources company, and we've seen the gold rush, especially during 2018, and you have space resources company. It's called Space Resources. I believe that it was going further very, very well. Then after that, it had a downturn, and other companies also that they worked on mining, space mining. So here, one of the company, which is the Trans-Astra Corporation, and it's coming from the NASA page, and it shows how these technologies they've been worked on, and it's the challenge of these disruptive technology is the issue of making the technology into action, and there are a lot of issues related to that in terms of risk management and, of course, investments. Who's going to invest? Usually, we've seen that space activities are the main investors are governments or countries, nation states, and now we have ambitious actors. Private actors, they're seeking investors to invest into these activities. But the issue is the balance between the investment and the return on the investments. And this is one of the issues that we've seen in the paradigm shift, is the problem of the lag of the ROI, when the ROI is going to be. So yeah, thank you for
yeah, I apologize for this noise. I would like to ask everyone, please, to ask your mic, to close your mic, unless you have question, unless it's gonna be in the end of the conference if you have. So go ahead, Malak.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So I go back to this to the challenges in the paradigm shift of the investments, and maybe someone asked why you bring the investment and the space economy and everything in this because it's about laws. And actually, when I say it's important to understand that the investors, they need to be protected by law in the in outer space. And also is especially when there is an investor who's coming from another jurisdiction, want to invest, for example, in UAE, in let's say, I'm just giving an example. It's not the case, but if an investor is coming to UAE, there is, and UAE has, or any other country, has a very nice and good and proven amazing concept of space, for example, space mining, and that investor want to invest in that. So the first thing need to think about what is the situation of the investor. Is he going to be treated as a direct FDI investor, a foreign direct investor? Is he going to be treated as a normal investor? Is there any difference between both of them within the law that they have further protection in terms, if anything happen, is there any investment treaty will be applicable on that? So and if there is any problem, and the investor who wants, for example, to open a huge luncheon and also lunch activities that, by private actor, is new trend in the space activity. So it will require a huge amount of investments to be injected in this activity. So the question is that billions or millions of dollars is going to be injected in this activity. So for example, the investor will be categorized under the host country as a foreign direct investor. What is the situation when there is a problem happening? Because the foreign direct investor is normally, if he fulfilled the criteria under the treaty and under the jurisdiction, he will be protected maybe by investment treaty. So the thing is, like, what if there is any issue happening and the government or the authority put the hand and make expropriation of that that huge project? So what is the recourse of this investor against the state? So what's going to happen in that case? So all these kind of questions raise the bell, and it needs to be cleared out because actually very important to see also, is there any precedents in the case law? How is going to happen? What is the limits to the investor? What is the due diligence that we need to make in order to protect his activities related to that? Also, for example, if there is a critical technologies, and this is another issues that we have related to the paradigm shift in space and the problems that we have in the law. And that's why I did not put, I believe I did not put space law in the title. I said the law. So actually it's not related only to space law. I'm talking about all kind of laws that they can be applicable on the activities itself. So the other question, I go back a second, and it was another example, and this example is about critical technology. So we've seen the rise of the technology protection that the states or nation states in United States, I need to say nation states because there is a problem with states, but in Europe we say states, we use the word states. So the issue when there is a nation state is protecting specific technology, and that technology cannot be transferred, or there are some kind of limitation into which jurisdiction, it can be. And here it's very important to understand that when you are having or owning, even when you are owning your own patent and you have the patent and you want to get into another jurisdiction, for example, you go to open the startup in another jurisdiction, or you are an investor, no, you are a startup and you have an investor is coming from another jurisdiction and he wants to inject investments into your startup. Actually, you need to be careful and go back to the laws to understand if you are able to do that or not, because there are some countries or some laws under specific jurisdiction, they ban you or they do not tell you don't do it, but you need to make the notification to the authority, and you need to do your due diligence to understand if your investor is if you're, for example, if your investor is venture capitalist or investment institution, you need to know if that institution holds any big investors that they are belonging to specific jurisdiction that, for example, United States ban that nationality to own this critical technology. So here we're not speaking about space law and the principles of space laws. It's more likely it's hands-on, ongoing, let's say, due diligence, studying of the situation of the transaction as it is a commercial transaction, and you have a lot of laws that they can be applicable, and you have a conflict of law rules that can be applicable even on your contract, even if you choose your the choice of law and everything. Sometimes it's if you are contradiction with loi de police or some laws that you cannot go against or do something even though you have a contract with another party, it will be challenged in front of when there's a conflict or when there's a problem. So it's important. So I got you into a roller coaster, but I don't have a lot of time. But I try to give you bits and pieces to be in the mood about the new space paradigm shift and the issues happening in real life. So here, when we say new technologies, also we speak about robotics, okay? We speak about AI, and we speak about on-orbit servicing. So here, this one is on-orbit servicing by within the International Space Station, and it's the Canadarm2. So important to know that on-orbit servicing, I've been speaking about it for so long because it's one of the greatest technologies that can solve a lot of issues, but also can cause so many issues related to technology risk. And when we say technology risk is related to so many risks, like, for example, on-orbit servicing can be used to fuel for fueling, for servicing satellite, for fixing satellite, for getting satellites deorbiting, for so many good things in space that it can mitigate the space system, can mitigate the space debris issues. It can give a longer life of to the satellite and reduce the costs of the satellite and get the satellite in a longer it has durability. But the problem of on-orbit servicing, it comes like the eggs and the chicken. So it's like, do we need to invest right now into the on-orbit servicing or in-orbit servicing, some they call it, or OOS, because there is a lot of risk. The main risk is like when it's deployed and it's AI based and it is not, of course, it's not tested before. We can do all the testing here, but it will never be the space environment as the same. So the question will be, how is going to be, what is the risk in terms of technological risk and all what is related to the space risks involved. The other risk is human error risk, because actually when it's not tested before in the same environment in outer space, there are of course some surprises. The other problem also with the on-orbit servicing is coming to the insurance. So when I say the egg and the chicken issue is the investor for the private actors who are ambitious to make the on-orbit servicing, the investor will be thinking twice about his, not twice so much, about his investment. The insurance also. So if it's a capital intensive activity, and when I say capital intensive activity is all the space activities or activities that happening in outer space that are capital intensive for now. The question is need to be insured. So is the insurance, or will the insurance cover this activity? How the insurance will calculate its the risks and the premium and all these kind of things. So many things are related to the technology itself and all what is related to the paradigm shift. And here we have always a problem when it comes to a paradigm shift. There is always a resistance, and there is always a new technology that needs to be tested. From the other side, the regulator, how the regulator will take the chances, for example, with on-orbit servicing in terms of requirement. So here, when there is launch activity or launch activity of a spacecraft, of course, there is calculation of the requirement of the insurance, and this is by the regulator, would tell you the minimum probable loss that you need to attain by the insurance, or you need to put a down payment or whatever it is, this much, and it's a lot. So how it can be calculated when the risk is really difficult to be calculated in terms of what could happen in outer space whenever the technology is deployed. The other one is the on-orbit servicing. Of course, it needs to be automated, and artificial intelligence is important for the future. So the question is how this will be regulated, what is the law to be, or how the law will cope with that, and the investors, how they can be protected, and in case of accidents and so on, how what will be happening, like due to error or due to okay, let's say the other problem also is cybersecurity. So if you have on-orbit servicing and it's working on automation and it's working on AI-based application, the question is what is how to calculate the risk, and what is the situation of the insurance when there is a hack, and when there is when this technology or the on-orbit servicing medium or tool is used to for other malicious activities, or is used for intentional harm to other space residents. And space residents are any like a satellite or space stations or so on. So it's all these questions are there, and of course with the new space race and the rise of space activity, space actors, that they are having a cool toys. And actually, I don't like that word because it's used so much and it's like billionaires, cool toys or whatever. But what we see that SpaceX have done an amazing work to create an economy of scale. And it's important because more we have reusability, more we reduce the cost of the activity itself. So the direct consequences of the new space race, the easier access to space, and new industrial policy due to the need of accelerated production and launch of space objects. This is the good part of the paradigm shift. Actually, as I mentioned before, countries are reducing the barriers for space activities and reducing the barrier for actors to enter into their jurisdiction, and you have a competition between the states for investments and for also actors who have disruptive technologies that they can give a competitive edge to the country itself within the new space race and the global space ecosystem. It's important to know also, for example, the UAE is having like the within its vision and within the vision of its leaders, they are transforming the UAE into space hub with industrial, let's say, hubs in the country. Where you have a new space manufacturer, and this is a great step. And that is being now worked upon through a lot of laws, amendments, a lot of regulations and new ones that we've never witnessed in UAE before. And it starts by attracting like big corporates and attracting entrepreneurs. Attracting entrepreneurs is done through incentives, through reducing the barriers that it would have, let's say, witnessed maybe before. But today, for example, before, and this is very important, before, when you are a foreign investor, either you go under or you can be categorized under the foreign direct investor, and they had a transition to give 100% shares, like you own all your shares if you are foreign investor, foreign direct investor. And before that, no, you needed to have always a 51% majority, at least 51%, so majority local shareholder. Today, most of the activities you have, you can be your own, you can be the owner of 100% if you are foreigner, and you don't need to fall under the foreign direct investment category. So now anyone wants to have a startup and enter into the UAE ecosystem, he's welcome to do that. And it's interesting to see how and what are the incentives are done for these kind of activities. And like we said, there's new dynamics in the law applicable to space activities. So, for example, when I say dynamics, if you are a commercial space actor and you wanted to enter into UAE space ecosystem. So I give UAE as an example because it's the latest country witnessing a great reforms that I've never seen within like 1 year and 1.5 years reforms happening like this before. So from reducing the barriers, which was the ownership itself. So before you had to be like at least you need to have at least 51% local partner. Now, of course, depends on the activities also for 100%. If you fall under activity that it touches some critical activities with a national interest implication, you need to have special approval. So now going back the reforms. So, of course, when you are acting as a commercial space actor, a private actor, first of all, you need to check what are the facilities that you have in terms of corporate laws, employment laws, technology transfer regulation, and also otherwise tax incentives or taxation and so on. And now we see that before we did not have a corporate taxes. Starting from next year it will be, but the percentage is very, it's minimal compared to other jurisdiction. And of course it's like you start paying taxes only when you reach a cap, and from there you pay. Otherwise, if you're lower than that cap, it will be you will have facilities. What else? You have free zones, so many free zones, and there are also the free zones here that are quite competitive. So they give a competition related to what you are, what is the activity, and they are free zones that they give incubations. Others they are given incentives based on, for example, you don't have to so many activities like reduction in the prices for women in some free zones. So it's really quite interesting. And actually, I'm not advertising to come to the UAE. I'm just let's say encouraging, and in a way that always it's interesting. And this is what I do. Is forum shopping is very important, and it's very interesting. So the entrepreneurial approach contaminates space law. So how is that? So what we have new models of agreements between space agency and industries. We have the privatization trends. We have the rise of private-public partnership, which is very important, and we've seen that happening with NASA. And this is what the new modern or the modern way how to handle big projects. So the country will not privatize, because there is a huge implication, for example, on the critical infrastructure or the national interest. So what they do is they make public-private partnerships. We have commercial orbital transportation services, and this trend also started with the NASA. We have modernization of traditional space companies to reduce costs. So we have increasing importance of corporate law in the space sector. And this is very important. So when I say I'm an international business practitioner, and I never liked that I'm called a space lawyer, space jurist, or whatever. It's like actually it's corporate law, it's business law, and space activities fall under it. And actually so many laws are applicable and need to be like ticking the boxes. It's like with governance and compliance. So the paradigm shift in space laws. We have a law applicable, or law of space application prevails over space law. So here, when we say that, it's quite tricky title, and I think many people use that also. So what we have here, we have what can be applicable on activities fallen under space activity category. We have digital laws, we have network development, we have interconnection with terrestrial networks, we have access. So these are the applications, okay? Access to the orbit spectrum resource. We have the regulation of application. We have content regulation, data policy, including big data law, of course, cybersecurity law, which is the security of networks and data. We have the personal data protection. We have the regulation on competition law in the digital market. Of course, this wasn't like this before. If we remember how at the time where you have the big giants, aerospace giants, they did not have all these kind of applications and compliance issues. So also we have law of space and the present and future challenges. So we have transportation law and we have the regulation of suborbital flights. So this is quite interesting because actually when we talk about this suborbital flights and the issues that related to space activities in terms of international space law is quite interesting. Actually, we have airplanes and we have also spacecrafts, and the suborbital flights can fall under both law international frameworks. So you have the outer space law. Okay, now I'm going to change to outer space law, and you have the laws governing the aviation activities. And there are some problems, and these issues are still not solved right now. You have the issue where the delimitation between the air and space laws. And you have, if there is any accident before the certain delimitation, the certain line, which law will be applicable? So here it's a whole new debate. And this one, actually, I would leave it for a whole webinar by itself. It's very interesting because actually, if there is two different, for example, in the future, you have two different suborbital flights. So the suborbital, they can go from one point to another point on Earth, okay? And they reach to certain limit on, and they go as like projectile. So the thing is, if you have two of them or one of the suborbital craft is having got an accident with, for example, a plane. So which law will be applicable? That's I will leave it for now in order to give you a little bit of suspense for another one, because it's a totally a different subject which needs a lots of let's say not even timing, it's explanation and like sketches and things like that. So I know that someone will ask about it in the Q&A, but I will be happy to answer it. But I will go further to another point right now before going to the conclusion, which is relating to the issues that we are witnessing today in terms of cybersecurity problems and the issues related to espionage or proximity activities or like taking over satellites and all these kind of issues that it has implication on the international security and the national security also. And the issue that when we want to look at it in terms of space laws and how to bring a conflict like that into to settle a conflict, settling a conflict like that would be quite problematic. Today, we've seen the issue with Ukraine and Russia, and the invasion is going from the invasion of one country to Russia invading Ukraine, and we see that the international community is like, I'm not going to say watching and not saying doing anything, but it's difficult because actually each one needs to abide by the laws. If you have a rogue state or rogue country trying to go against the norms or the customary laws, which is the customary law international law. It's a part of the international law. The thing is like whether customary law or treaties or whatever it goes under the category of the type of the law within the international legal system. The question is, what if this happening and there is a huge issues related to an activities done in outer space that one country violates the rights or violates the another countries and take over satellite or damage satellites, hacking satellites. We've seen that the hacking is happening, but what if a satellite or even the space, the International Space Station is taken over and dragged and thrown above a country? So what's going to happen? These are the questions that needs to be answered, not by me. Actually, it's about the international community, and that's why NATO and other actors within the space or within the international community not only need to take care of the issues related to commercial space activities, because actually if a country does that to another one, means like it can be a public satellite, it can be private satellite, it can be taken over a spacecraft and damaging while there are civilians inside. And we see now the rise of civilian actors and so many other issues that related to that. And this is the thing, is like the paradigm shift is not only going by the space or new space or commercial space activities, is going also within the international or within the order, the global order that we've been seeing, and how some countries are not abiding by the norms. So if you have investors, for example, or investors, and you have big space corporation like or for example SpaceX, and you have one country want to bring down all their Starlink, okay, what's going to happen later on? Is going to be war in space or war on Earth, and what is the situation? So I think here it's not about in this kind of from a personal point of view, the issue is not about if the law is able to cope with this particular thing. Is there any change of in the mindset of the actors, stakeholders, to have a peaceful use of outer space in order to fulfill or achieve the sustainability of outer space that I mentioned its definition, which is quite sane. It's the protection of or keeping the use of the peaceful use of outer space indefinitely for the present and future generation. And that's the question to be asked. So to conclude here, we have they're just the points. So as I said, we have entered into a new era of space exploration and space use, and it was demonstrated, and I gave like examples about or a quick overview about space economy and the space ecosystem, the way how the private actors are going forward. And when I say new space, is always I'm talking about the way of the way how the new space or how space exploration and use moving toward the private or in the hand of the private actors. That's a big paradigm shift. And then we have other factors defining or identifying the paradigm shift. And I touch upon a few of them. Also, I touch upon the use of outer space and why the space sustainability and all what is related to mitigating the issues and risks that could be problematic within this arena. It's important in order to continue using outer space for peaceful purposes and to serve humanity. The other point is the private entrepreneur will be increasingly present, and that's we see it more and more. And it's interesting when we see in the future how we start having infrastructure in outer space, and the application of the Artemis program, which we have seen also a lot of MOU signed with NASA. And those MOU also involved private actors, and quite interesting. The question is always there is an issue with risk and investments to be taken care of. So the other point, which is the last, the international community must establish a balance between the common interest of all nations using space for peaceful purposes. Of course, when I say using space for peaceful purposes, actually space right now, we have satellites are placed over there. We have the space station is over there, also serving humanity with all kind of science experiments and so on, and much more in the future. For example, the on-orbit servicing, which is my favorite activity in outer space, that it will be changing the game. I want to say game changer in the future, because it can be used to mitigate the risk of satellite issues, and also mitigate the issues or the risks related to space sustainability and the space debris removal. Also, I've done so many presentation, and I've done some abstracts related to the way how space can be like a space economy. It can go towards, let's say, maybe not a circular economy, I would say, but a little bit more sustainable economy if we apply on-orbit servicing in a manner that it is safe and reliable. It can, like I said, remove space debris. It can, with 3D manufacturing in the future, we can have our own infrastructures using 3D and on-orbit servicing, because actually the space junk can be recycled itself and can have space infrastructure. Quite interesting. That's why I like it so much, because actually it is a very good case for future sustainability and a kind of sustainable economy in the future, which can be also the stepping stone toward the future use of outer space and the future exploration. Because when you have the infrastructure in the cislunar area, or let's say in different areas, that it can be used for mining. Also, when I say space infrastructure, it can be any infrastructure that it can have a use or economic input to get an output later on for building the let's say the future civilization, human civilization in outer space. So the balancing between the common interest of all nations, the main principles of space laws, which is the space use for peaceful purposes and other principles. I will be happy to cite them for you in the Q&A session. And the need to support private actors, because supporting the private actors is very important. We see always how we are fussing on private actor from different issues. For example, space debris, and the other ones are light pollution and so on. But actually we need very much these, thank you, Ryan, thank you. So we need to think about the future input of private actors and protection also, which I mentioned about the investors' protection. Thank you. I am done, I believe, and I exceeded the 1 hour. I don't know, because we started late, so I think it's enough for today.
Thank you, Malak, so much. It was really an amazing presentation. We got a lot to let's say to know and to learn about. Thank you so much, Malak. It was really nice to hear all of this and also see these slides and nice pictures and know more about space and law. So I can start forward you the question from our follower in social media. And the first one is from Sene. She say, why do we need law in outer space? How it is built, this law? Based on what exactly?
Well, why do we need laws? Actually, any activities in human history, actually, if we did not have laws, and we see that in history, it was problematic. And actually, when I studied international relation during my first master, and it was the introduction to political science. Okay, the first thing is like, why do we need laws, and how we moved from being a caveman into being a modern human being as we see ourselves today. Sometimes we need to ask questions about being modern or not, because actually we have always the state of mind is divide and conquer, unfortunately, and trespass the right of others for the interest of the few. Now it's like I said, it's important to have laws governing any activities in order to have rights and obligation, and this is coming from the social like we have we entered into the social contract, and the social contract is I am living within a society. I will give up a little of my liberties in order to be protected, okay? And that liberty will be that I give away the cost of the protection I have. So I will be protected, and I will not trespass the rights of others, and everyone is knowing his rights and obligation, and having like a government is making the rules and the regulations and the laws, and we need to abide by that, and we need to submit to this to these rules within the social contract that we enter into it and we agreed upon. Well, maybe you say, well, I never agreed upon it. Well, it's like that, and it's becoming a norm, and we are born in a society, in a country, and you're fallen under jurisdiction where applicable laws goes. And let's remember the men, how we started making trades. When we traded, and we used to, and we see that, for example, the Silk Road, and we went from one country to another through the Silk Road in order to sell and buy and do commerce and everything. There are some lex mercatoria. It's like the law of the merchant. And then after that, we have the law of the merchant. The rules are done by the people. They are the merchants at that time. So now we have these kind of laws, and needed to be abide upon. So when the men started to be active or thinking about activities in outer space, and we had these issues happening between the two countries, the former Soviet Union and United States, they started negotiating during the Cold War to make international laws. So actually, why international laws? To govern these kind of activity, to reduce the tension, and to make sure that these activities are done within the international norms, within the international legal system. So you don't have any country is trespassing another within outer space. And they agreed upon certain rules at that time, and those rules are very noble. Like, for example, is the rules, the first I mentioned mentioned it before, the first treaty was the Outer Space Treaty, the OST treaty, and it set very noble principles that they govern the activities of the human activities in that domain or space, outer space. So the first principle is the freedom of exploration and scientific discovery or investigation in outer space. The second the second principle is the non-appropriation principle and its consequences on space venture or activities. And when I say non-appropriation, is like you cannot have a property, but this one, it steered some issues between nation, and it was also a problem within the private space actors, because who owns what was the problem. Do we have the right to own something or not? This was the problem. So the use of outer space must, the other principle, which is the main principle, is the use of outer space must be exclusively made for peaceful purposes. So it cannot be done for non-peaceful purposes under the Outer Space Treaty, which was elaborated in the 4 other treaties. Then the other one, the other principle is that set the states or countries' duties in outer space or governance under the Outer Space Treaty. So that was the thing. So among the duties of, among the obligation and duties of outer space is to govern their space activities within the country or the jurisdiction, and all the activities fallen under its jurisdiction. And here, when we talk about space, it depends on different countries. Some of them, they set that the activities that the national space law is applicable on, for example, different activities related to the nationalities, other activities happening within the territories and within other factors that they are applicable. Depends from one state to another. Some of them even like highlighted or cited or so on, the activities that of the luncheon activities done from the offshore. So some different, and here comes is like when we have space activities, we need to check what is the particular applicable law that it's applicable on that activity, and if there is this activities falls under this national space laws within the jurisdiction, and if there is any issues of conflict of law that another state may have jurisdiction over that activities. So when we talk about the freedom of exploration and scientific investigation in outer space, and this is very important for astronomers. So the Outer Space Treaties sets the rights and obligation of the contracting states, which is any country is a party to the Outer Space Treaty in the outer space. So the first article guarantee 3 main freedoms. Those guaranteed freedoms are freedom of exploration, freedom of accessing space, including the moon and other celestial body, and the freedom of scientific investigation. So the Article 1 also, I'm going to give an example, guarantees an equal treatment to all countries and prohibits in any discriminations along them, irrespectively of their degree of economic or scientific development, and shall be the province of all mankind. This is particularly the province of all mankind, and the language is quite different than the languages that we see today. So it's been used. Why? Because space at that time, it was an endeavor. It's like looked at. It's it will be achievable because it was talked about since like Jules Verne and so on. It was a part of science fiction, but also at that time, like the future could be foreseen, but not as we see it today. So that's why even the language of the Outer Space Treaty, it was a little bit different than what we see now. So as we say, the province of mankind is like a field with an open access regime to everyone. So when you have open access regime, of course, everyone comes and first come, first serve. It needs to be regulated. We need the law in order to know, for example, if you have a satellite coming from, for example, from Italy, for example, you need to know that satellite where it's going to be placed within the orbital slots, and this one is also there is a regulation for it, and there is a legal, let's say, a set of rules, and it's applicable on that. So many, like each activity should be normally regulated. So that's why when we started, usually we start by the technology, and then the law follow. And the issue is like the countries sometimes they start making the investigation on a case-by-case basis in order to give the authorization, because they did not have specific rules or regulation on that activity or technology itself. So that's why there's always an issue of a paradigm shift, which is having an issue and challenging the rules. So, for example, if you have clear rules governing the light pollution in certain jurisdiction, which in certain country, which that country set the rules within its national law, you will be happy as an astronomer. You will not have a light pollution everywhere. So if you have also regulation is like with the specific technologies, that this technology, for example, or dimmer or something, that it needs to be input or implemented into your satellite before authorizing, like they do it for environmental pollution. For example, when there is what you call it, spacecraft launched from certain jurisdiction, there is authorization or from the authority that it is the environmental, setting the environmental guidelines in order to make sure that that activity is not messing the environment when they are launching. There is no extensive externality that it can mess the environment or having an implication or how I'm going to say it, this pollution that it can be toxic around. So this is why we need regulations. And this is just an example of why, some examples of why we need regulations. Can you imagine that we don't have regulation at all, and states like countries, they are keeping on deploying without knowing who has a specific slot in the orbital slot in the satellite, okay? And there's a problem of the visibility, who is there. So that's why we have a registry, and most of the time the countries, they notify the international let's say registry in order like a committee, and in order to make sure that it's there, even though there is a problem with the notification issue and the specification that they are related to that. And we need to fill the gaps.
Thank you so much, Malak, for this answer. So the next one is, I might go here forward for the participant in the Zoom in case they have question or any comment or special request for Malak about the slides or the representation. So otherwise, I will go to the next question, which is, can any state claim a part of the moon or other celestial bodies are its own? That's a really good one.
The same question all the time. Actually, it's a long answer to that one. So actually, I just, when I was citing the principles of the outer space treaties, the main principles, okay, one of them was the non-appropriation principle and its consequences on space ventures. And when I say space ventures, is like all kind of ventures, including the activities made by states themselves. So Article 3, of the Outer Space Treaty imposes restriction on Article 1, which gives the freedoms. It prevents the national appropriation or the national monopolization of space and celestial bodies. It also prevents states from claiming their rights of property over territories in space and celestial bodies by any means, including means of use. So these are the means that they are known means under international laws of a state can claim its property over a territory. So there are like I said, it's like it prevents states from claiming their rights of properties over territories in space and celestial bodies by any mean, including means of use, occupations, or sovereignty claim. So considering that acquiring a property may be legally done under international law through occupation, discovery, accession, and accretion. Those are the type of things. So under this article, as the explicit prohibition is clearly illustrated, it gives a room to deduct that there is an implicit authorization for private actors. So if I tell you, you can, you know something, actually, you are, for example, you are not allowed, okay, to own this pen, okay? I cannot let you own this pen, okay? This pen is known, is there. So I tell you, so you cannot. Is it applicable on any other like stationery or pens? It's there. Actually, no. So when we have a prohibition in a certain way done under international treaty, and it gives you room to implicit deviation on the prohibition, it means like if I tell the countries you cannot appropriate, you cannot own, it means like there is an implicit authorization for private actors. So this is an interpretation of jurists that they can do, and probably it was done in purpose during the draft of this treaty. So so this gives the implicit authorization, like I said, for private actors to use space and celestial bodies resources. So Article 2 of the OST, it says outer space, including the moon and other celestial bodies, is not subject to national appropriation by claim of sovereignty by means of use or occupation or by any other means, which I just said. So if they say the countries, the state parties, they cannot, okay, there is an interpretation. They said, well, you did not say private actor cannot. So the right of property over the moon and celestial bodies, as it was said at the time of drafting of the OST and like a conclusion of this treaty, did not cause legal issues at that time because new space or commercial space actors did not exist at that time. So the Moon Agreement is the last agreement of 1979, I believe, if I'm not wrong about the exact date. It's saying it ascertains that the prohibition of claim of right of property over moon and other celestial body, it was stated in that. And the OST was, Article 2 was elaborated in the Moon Agreement. So the Moon Agreement took over the OST Article 2, and it says, it's known to be the backbone of the Moon Agreement. It insists on the idea that the moon and its natural resources are mankind heritage, means like for everyone. And the moon and other celestial bodies cannot be subject of ownership to any state, international and national organization, or to any private legal person. But guess what? The Moon Agreement is like, when you take the Outer Space Treaty, it's almost the legal, like all the community, almost international community signed it. They are party to it almost. But the Moon Agreement is only, I think, 13 state parties are, and even it's problematic. So they are calling it the failed agreement. Because actually United States refused to sign it because they see further and saw further at that time. And usually in the international order, when United States refuse, and this happened with the WTO before it's done, and it's the GATT agreement, when they refused to sign the GATT, like it was a problem, and it was rounds and rounds before it was accepted and then moved to the WTO. So the Moon Agreement has confirmed that non-state actors and states cannot own, or any natural legal person cannot enjoy ownership over the areas in space, or let's say on the celestial body and the moon, and nonetheless, it has confirmed the right of property over movable man-made object in space. So if you have, or anyone has a movable object, man-made object installed over there, you have the right to property over there. You are like, it's not the Wild West yet. So many people, they call it the Wild West. But for me, I call the cyber space is the Wild West. It's like you are sitting and you're getting hacked and everything, you don't even know where the hack is coming from. So that's the issue. So, however, it should be stated that the Moon Agreement was only embraced by a small number of contracting parties, whereby the main spacefaring countries did not accept to sign it. Okay, the OST, the Outer Space Treaty, would apply considering the many scholars' claims that non-appropriation of outer space extraction was addressed to states and not to private actors. So it was sorted out. A strong argument was introduced by the International Institute of Space Law, advocating the legitimacy of United States Act when they claimed claimed that their private actors could have the right of property in outer space, and they argued the ISS referred in its argument to the Permanent Court of International Justice case, which is called the Lotus Case, which held that sovereign states are free to act in the absence of specific prohibition, as I said before. So when I tell you states cannot claim the right and so on, means like there is an implicit it's okay for the private actors. Therefore, the United States was the first country who gave the right to property to its private actors, and the community was surprised about that, and there were some dissensions, they were not happy about it, some of them. But then the United States has the discretionary power to grant its citizen the right of property over the space extracted from resources. So this is what is happening when there is no prohibition of certain actor. It means like they can come up with the jurisprudence case law of the Court of Justice and interpreted as per that outcome.
Thank you so much, Malak. And then we're going to go for the last question, which is about what is the legal status of astronaut in outer space?
Well, when we talk about astronaut in outer space, the legal status is like the astronaut presence in outer space is governed. Like, for example, with the space station is governed by the Intergovernmental Agreement governing that activity, and most of it is done there. However, when we go also to the international, when we go also to the national laws that they are applicable on astronaut, actually, when you open the text of the law governing the space activities, you will find always space participants, most of the laws, space participants, space crews, space crew, and also the issue of the private actors sending space tourists. It's in another debate, because actually the main debate of is it, can we call that person or that like whoever is undergoing this activity, can we call him as astronaut? Actually, the astronaut or cosmonaut, it came like a long time ago, and it was done when the space activity started, and we've seen some fatalities happening at that time. And at that time in the space treaty, the astronaut was called the envoy of all mankind. Why? Because of the fatalities happening, because of the bravery at that time, because actually we remember first times when humans, they start using airplanes, it was also risky activities. But when it comes to space activities and being in a spacecraft, it's at that time, in the beginning of the space treaties, it was very, very difficult to outcome or to imagine how those persons are brave, especially what happened with the Challenger issue, because of the technological risks that it is included. And that time, like I said, they were called the envoy of all mankind. And actually, if you remember, I spoke about the protection, the space activities in terms of the space treaties. And I spoke about the 1968 Rescue Agreement, or we call it also the Astronaut Agreement. And actually this one, this treaty, it was one of its kind, that it shows the international collaboration, cooperation, and the consideration to humanity and to humans that undergoing these kind of activities and risky activities. And this treaty is dedicated to the rescue of astronauts. Means like, for example, if there is an astronaut in distress, what is the obligation of other countries if they are going on their territories, how they can help them and give them the needed rescue under the international law. Now, of course, that I said that the 1968 Rescue Agreement, or the Astronaut Agreement, gives specific protection to the astronaut. So when we look at now, the private actors are just a billionaire is having much money to go for a mission, and that mission is strictly to see to go beyond the Kármán line and to see a nice view and everything. The question is like, what is the under the international law, what we can categorize what category this participant can be under? Can he be protected under the rescue agreement or whatever? So here it's debates in there. It started, then it was settled, because actually to be recognized as an astronaut, there are some criteria. It's very interesting in order, even if you are with the private actor, and you will be calling yourself astronaut or being called astronaut, you need to reach specific criteria in order to be called that. So among the criteria is what is the training that you need to undergo to make in order to like one of the criteria. The other one is which is the altitude that you arrive to. So many other criteria that they are there. So now the thing is like a space participant, or also there's another problem, which is the protection when it comes to the international laws and liability. For example, if there is any country having a satellite, and that space craft with these space like private participant and that satellite damage the spacecraft, for example, and those people are harmed. So which type of laws will be applicable? Is if they are going to be under the liability convention, are they going to be protected under the rescue or astronaut agreement if there is a distress? So all these kind of things are there, but we come back to the main point, is like, what is the status? The status, like I said, its criteria need to be there in order to be to meet the international norms. But if the person is there, like I said, some people, they died for the sake of humanity, to be in a space craft like the Challenger, and they are heroes of nations. So I don't think they can be, from my point of view, I don't think they can be in the same position as a person who's having so much money and he wants to ride a space craft to go see a nice sunset from up there.
Yeah, I completely agree, honestly.
This is my point of view.
No, I share with you, in fact, the same point. I completely agree for these words. I saw that Patrick, he wrote an interesting question in the chat. He said, I have a question to ask about if there's any law yet in the law for the first contact with extraterrestrial life. I think the answer is no. Is this question?
You know something? Yeah, I think it's a question, and it's very, very interesting, because actually first contact. So the question, I will have a question for him. When you say a first contact.
Patrick, if you can hear us, just jump in. You can discuss.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Patrick.
Hello.
think you're the one who can answer this question, because actually you've been and you shared with me when you saw this webinar flyer, and you shared with me some interesting, very interesting abstract or exhibit from some work you've done. And I have a question. First question. First of all, when you say first contact, okay, there are assumptions. First of all, the first contact, is it, and this is my question to you, why people think the first contact will be in outer space? And why people think that the first contact will be by aliens, and those aliens are coming from outer space? What about coming from another dimension? So if because actually we're not sure there is alien life out there, and we're not sure there are other dimensions out there or other worlds out there that we cannot see. So the thing is, like, how can we how do we know where they're coming from the first, or why we always make an assumption that they're going to come from outer space?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And in fact, I don't think we actually know what direction the contact will come from. For example, we explore space and we send craft to other space, but I suppose if they exist, they may also do the same and send craft to our solar system and perhaps they land and maybe the contact is on land, not in space. Who knows? So it's important to not have too many assumptions that don't have any ground to stand on regarding contact, I think. But I would say, my original question is there any known law, formal law for how this contact should happen? And I don't think there is I don't think there is in the legal frameworks on Earth. There might be law or protocols in secret government areas that perhaps have teams to work on this. Maybe they have teams, maybe they don't, who knows? We may never know. But the principles that I would recommend for first contact are just very simple and try to minimize conflict. Always go for the more peaceful route. Yeah, that's what I recommend those should look like. In fact, perhaps I might send my first contact protocols to the United Nations committee on that establishes these types of laws.
Yeah, actually, there's thank you, Patrick. And actually, if you go back to well, I don't want to make assumptions, okay? But there is something always it's saying. Actually, you only minimize the risk when you are ready for that risk. And here I want to say, we have a flood of this TikTok or whatever the unidentified object that it was seen, and that's why the law was elaborated by in the United States in order to get a committee and inject money to study this strange phenomenon, this unidentified phenomenon. You get which one I'm talking about, yeah?
Yes, I do.
So the thing is, like, we already had something that is not understandable. We had something that it's unknown for us, and you saw what is the reaction. And actually, at that time, there is no laws. So you see now how they elaborated like a set of rules to form a committee in order to study that phenomenon.
I wasn't aware of it, but that's good to hear.
Yes. Actually, it's I can share it on my Facebook. I shared it before. So there is now some like agreed upon rules to set a committee in order to study these and see what is the implication of the national security, and also the implication if it's any like adversary technology, in order to understand what is it and where it's coming from.
Good idea. Great. Yep. Can you send me that link?
I will share it again on Facebook,
you.
so like that you will have access to. It's public, actually.
Okay, fantastic, and great talk you gave.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Maisa. I need to run.
Yeah, I agree with Patrick. Thank you, Malak, for the great talk. It was very, very amazing. Yeah, thank you so much for this 12 hours from your time. I know that you are super busy, so I will not take more from your time. Thank you, Patrick, to be here. I would like to thank our participants and people are following us in social medias, live streaming. Thank you, everyone. Wishing you a good evening and see you the next time. Thank you.
So
bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.